Look at where we are in terms of California as it relates to COVID-19. Okay, so total, we have a total of 92,710 cases. That's a 2.3% increase over the last time we looked. We have a total of 3,774 deaths, COVID related. That's a 1.8% increase over the last time we looked. And we have over a 1,582,745 tests for COVID reported. And these numbers are all accurate as of 5/24/2020, which is today. Right? So this is the latest data. And right now I'm on the state's COVID-19.ca.gov website. So these are official numbers coming from the state of California. Further, California now has 92,710 confirmed cases of COVID-19, resulting in some 3,774 deaths. The number of COVID-related deaths increased by 1.8% from Friday's total of 3,708. The number of COVID-19 diagnostic test results in California reached a total of 1.582 million, an increase of 67,439 tests since Friday. So over a one-day period, we performed an additional 67,439 tests. California's hospitalizations due to COVID-19 decreased by 44 from Friday. So a summary for you in terms of where we are as it relates to COVID-19 and California. I'll scroll down a little bit here just to show you, I'll make my screen a little bit bigger to show you as ADOS organizers where we are on the curve, okay? So we've heard a lot about flattening the curves. These are the curves right here, okay? This top curve represents the new lab confirmed cases of COVID-19 since, let's say, March, and here we are over here in May, all right? So this is our curve. If you wanna call this flattening the curve, maybe. The trend line looks up to me still. I'm not a mathematician, but it does look like it's going up. But that is our curve in terms of new cases. The curve below is the curve for new COVID-19 related deaths by day. So it's a day over day counting of how many people died the day before in the last 24 hours. This is our curve. This is our, for lack of a better way to put it, COVID deaths curve. Trend line, to be honest with you, still looks up, even though it looks like it may have flattened out, right? So I just wanted to give you an idea of where our curves are, because we talk about flattening the curve, right? If we look specifically in terms of where the cases are concentrated, last week we saw this, and this week we see the same thing, and it's actually up from last week, right? Most of the cases are in Los Angeles County, okay? As a matter of fact, you can combine, it looks like you can combine all the cases from the top, let's say, 8 or 9, 7, 8 or 9 places combined are probably less than the total cases in LA County. So LA County, as you can see here, has a big circle around it. That's where the majority of the cases are. And then we've got some further south, as well as some north in the Bay Area and Northern California region. So just wanted to give you an idea of where we are in terms of regionality. Let's talk about race really quickly. Race and or ethnicity. Positive COVID cases by race and ethnicity. We're talking about 5.6% of the Black population. Okay, so positive cases by race or ethnicity, 5.6% as it relates to the Black population. Of course, when we say Black, we're talking about Black American descendants of slavery, ADOS, as well as foreign-born Blacks, so Black folks who have immigrated from another country. So this number captures a few different groups here, and of course we're specifically concerned about ADOS. So we really don't know the count for ADOS, but at least as the data is reported now, Blacks, quote unquote, account for 5.6% of positive cases and accounts for 6% of the total population in California. So we are, we have a little bit less cases based on our percentage of the state. As it relates, though, we do know that even though we may be underrepresented in terms of cases, we have seen evidence that we are overrepresented in terms of deaths. So while we're getting the virus at a rate comparable to our population in the state. When we look at the death numbers, and I don't have them up here right now, but when we look at the death numbers, at least last time we looked, we saw that we were overrepresented in terms of the deaths. That's important for a number of different reasons. So I just want to start with a brief update in terms of where we are as a state. Okay, I was going to do a little bit of national health updating too, but I didn't want to take too long into the call. I want to stop there, pause. Any questions, comments, feedback on the health state of the state, where we are as a community?
Yes, I think that we should maybe start a hashtag or a campaign, Know Your Status, kind of like they did with HIV, because testing is becoming more available. I know I posted something in LA, in Culver City. They had an antibody testing yesterday that was free. And so, you know, I got tested 2 weeks ago, and hopefully I can get tested again because, you know, I just want to be sure that I'm sure. But I think that might be something to encourage people to, you know their status.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Any other thoughts on that? I just put the hashtag in the chat. I like that. I like, you know, encouraging folks to get tested, right? You know, so any other thoughts on that?
And can I add, I had a conversation with someone from the mayor's office, and they shared with me that that's a huge problem, is actually getting Black people to take the test, because they opened up quite a few testing locations in South LA, which is one of the things ADOS LA has been advocating for. But the next hurdle is actually getting people to trust, medical. Yeah.
For the test, so are people using that invasive testing? I think that's probably why a lot of people are going. Like,
What do you mean invasive?
Yeah, you know, the testing where they stick the thing way down in your throat and keep it there and move it around.
There's 3 different. There's multiple tests. The one I got was self-administered. And it was in my gums. I'm not sure what my concern is the accuracy rate. So I'm really concerned about a false negative. So which is why I do want the test, the nasal test is apparently more accurate, but then the antibody test is a prick. But these are all drive-through tests. So as far as invasiveness, Lori, have you heard that concern before?
Yeah. Made videos.
I was.
Was.
Hey, did you guys hear what I said?
My phone, you're going in and out.
Yeah, you were going in and out a little bit.
Who's going in?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
What about now? I was saying I had a conversation with someone in the mayor's office of Los Angeles, and they shared with me that they're having a huge problem getting Black people to take the test. We've advocated for more locations in South LA, which they have quite a few now, but no one's taking the test, according to her. So I shared with her, it could be because people feel, a lot of people don't trust healthcare officials. They don't trust the medical establishment. So they need to come up with a way to ensure that people, that Black people feel comfortable taking the test. So they are, opening up facilities, like there's one at the Crenshaw Mall, there's several throughout South LA, but like I said, no one's hardly taking them. Well, they're afraid, and she's afraid that they may pull back resources because of that.
Well, the issue is
in taking the test because it's been presented as this very invasive, uncomfortable, like almost traumatic like experience with them sticking this thing down your nasal passages or your throat, choking, gagging, kind of things like that. So I've seen several videos of I've heard people who tested. So maybe as a part of our campaign, in addition to the Know Your Status, we could, maybe we can do some education in terms of, like you said, Sharice, there are options, but of course outline this may be less accurate, but if your issue is you don't want an invasive type of test, then you just have to understand that your results may not be as accurate.
I think, Tiffany, there might be another issue with you have to do the work to go get the test, and so it was actually difficult for me initially to even get an appointment. I thought the form had testing, or was a testing location, because that's what was initially listed. And then I end up going to Crenshaw Mall. But when you log on, it's just not easy to get a test. My friend lives in Culver City, and she ended up going to Carson because there were no test dates available. But when I went to the mall, it was empty. So they need to make, you know, it might be somewhat of an accessibility issue, in that, you know, they're just, they need to, you know, maybe, I don't know, be standing on the corner, because trying to get people to sign up, that you have to actively search for that website and the link, and people are not going to take the initiative. And so it needs to be, you know, hey, we're going to be here on a certain day, like the one I was talking about that happened yesterday. There was no sign up. You just showed up. Hey, we're going to be here at Culver City Library. Come up and get a test. And like I said, maybe they need to put signs on the corner, instead of making it appointment based. I don't know what the reason for them having it be appointment based. And then if quote unquote Black people are not signing up, they need to give maybe some more information about how many African Americans have been tested, and what the expectation of the numbers are, because that's a blanket statement. Black people are not getting tested, because my whole family, all my family in LA except my sister has been tested, and she was recently potentially exposed to COVID. So I don't know, like what the numbers are reflecting, and that would be good to see if they are collecting that data.
I have a question for a potential remedy for that. Maybe it would be a good idea for ADOS to petition the radio stations, KGLH, you know, the Beat, all these radio stations, and to say, hey, you know, as a public service announcement, at which they, you know, shouldn't cost anything, can we, you know, maybe do a couple of slots and ask them to get more involved that way?
That's a great idea, Lori. Great idea.
Yeah, I think so. I'm actually taking that down the notes right now. Does anybody else have anything to add on testing or what you heard from the general health briefing in general?
On the KGLH has that morning show, Dominique DePrima. I have problems with her, some of the things that she said.
Are you right,
but I'm sorry. Oh, yeah,
No,
maybe that. So I don't know if that's me or somebody talking, but I don't want to cut anybody off. But anyway, I was just saying that maybe, you know, if, you know, that could be an avenue, because I know she has listeners, you know, ongoing listeners. And so I know she does provide a lot of information, things that are going on, and resources in the community. I haven't listened to her since, you know, since COVID, because I'm not in LA as much. I'm not in LA anymore, but I used to listen to her, and I know that she would provide information. So I don't know, that might be something.
And they have a slate of shows, you know, they go all day. So hers is not the only slot. If they did it as public service, hopefully they would do at least 5 or 6 a day during different time periods, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And that's not the only radio station. I think we have the Beat, you know, we have some other radio stations out here that are really popular. Same thing for, you know, I don't know what if the issue is in Sacramento or in the Bay Area.
We got a few, right? We got like
local stations, see if we could, you know, ask for their assistance in getting the word out.
Yeah, for sure.
And Chris, I know that we just got some testing sites out here in Sacramento as well. I believe one was in Oak Park. Have you had a chance to check out how the operations work at all in the new testing?
I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. I'm looking forward to it though. So I think we should check it out just to do our due diligence here. I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. And I also know there's supposed to be a bunch of trailers and stuff like that. So I haven't seen anything yet. And I don't personally know of a lot of folks who have been tested, but that shouldn't be read as any, you know, indication of the scale of the testing. But I haven't seen the Oak Park stuff yet.
And this is a little bit off topic as far as testing, but it's kind of related in that I see that they're going to be making a lot of jobs available, I guess, for the code tracing aspect of it. I was wondering if you had involvement with that, or we're going to try to make a connection with that, kind of like you do work with the census to work with code tracing to get people jobs doing that.
Yeah, good question. Definitely want to hear what other people think on this too. We from what I understood and from what I heard from the governor's office. Hey fam, what I thought I understood from the governor's office, they're putting together like a this sort of core, sort of a testing army. They were sort of talking about it as. But it sounded like they were starting with people who were already like furloughed and like didn't have state jobs. They were were furloughed from their state jobs because of COVID or whatever. It looked like they were starting with those folks first in terms of the hiring and the outreach. I haven't heard anything else about that in like the last couple of weeks. I can make a note to follow up on it. I think it's definitely something that we want to be paying attention to, because if there's going to be paying jobs, I think we want to be, now, it is a risk too, because you're putting yourself out there in the front to look for people. You want to look for COVID-19. Okay, so.
And I saw that a lot of these jobs are going to be web-based and making phone calls, but I think it's also a good way to stay on top of the data, having the data.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's super.
Who's doing the contract.
Yeah, no, that's super right. The one of the things that's like the common thread from what Sharice was saying to Lori, to Tiffany, to you, is that we don't have we don't have the data. We don't have data. We don't have visibility. This is a problem not only on the economic side and the business side and all that stuff, and who's getting money, but who's getting tested, right? And this is one of the things that we've been bringing up every single time we've talked to anybody in terms of legislation. Is getting this data? Who's getting tested? Who's not getting tested? Who's not getting tested? Why? What's the reason? Right? So
I just want to encourage everybody that's on the call, if you have not gotten tested, to take advantage of the free testing and come back and report how it went. Because we can't talk about it. We can't be going in and making demands and not,
and then we didn't get tested.
and we're not even taking advantage. That doesn't even make any sense. It's like, well, did you get tested? No, I don't know how this went. You can't speak speculatively. Right. And so I would encourage everybody to do that. But about this, what you all are talking about right now. So I usually post in one group I'm in, it's an employment group, jobs, and I was going to post one of these jobs because a company said that they had got a contract to trace, COVID patients or whatever. And when I went to the website, the company is in DC based, it's like a tech company or whatever, but there was no guarantee that you would get paid for the job. So I would encourage people, if they are applying, to make sure this is not a volunteer position, that is paid, and that it's a company that's gonna, that's really vetted, because these contracts that the government are giving out are not being thoroughly reviewed the way they would normally. I don't know if you all just saw the state of Washington got scammed. They got caught up in a Nigerian scam with their unemployment benefits, and they lost almost $4. So this is happening. Like, PPP fraud is going on. People who said they had N95 masks trying to sell them to the government. So you want to make sure that if, one of these companies is not either, looking for volunteers and they're not being fraudulent. And so, that's just the only caveat.
Yeah, be careful. Make sure you're getting paid. If you are getting paid. Rita, did you have something here? I thought I saw you jumping in.
Yeah, it was just on everybody getting, take the test so that we could be talking about it. And I was just saying that, I was about to say that, well, maybe the host should, can't you do a poll on here on Zoom? Everybody could say if they
I think I can.
That way, I think maybe you would only know the answers, but I bet you, well, I'll admit it right now, I haven't got tested, and I am one of those people who, is weary of it, and I'm cool, you know, for right now, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna do it right now. That doesn't mean I'm not gonna do it in the future. I'm not gonna do it in a month. But for right now, you know, I'm taking all the precautions I can get. And I think there's a lot of people in that boat. And I don't know, maybe there's a way to address those folks and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. That was just my thing.
Yeah, no.
I bet you probably 75% of us on this call have not taken it. Or more.
Now that they have different kinds of tests, right?
Yeah, I see in the chat room, somebody said somebody spit.
See if you ever were exposed. And then they have a test, like if you have symptoms, to see if you actually have it. So I think that there hasn't been a clear explanation of the difference between the two. A lot of people probably don't. I would rather go take the antibody test to tell me whether if I, you know, was ever exposed to it and I was cleared for it, than have, you know, do a more invasive test to actually see if I have it or something like that. Because if you're asymptomatic, I mean, you know, it's like, it's just really,
Yeah.
Q-tip down your throat for no reason.
No, I think you're right. I think it's going to be, and I think it's going to be interesting. And so one, I second what Sharice said and what Rita's saying, right? If we're going to be out here in the community talking about taking the test and take the test, we got to take the test ourselves, right? Or at least have to be, or you know, be willing to, or on the way to, right? If we're going to be advocating for folks to do something, right? We got to be willing to do it ourselves. Taking the test yet, just in full disclosure and full honesty. I will take the test though. I've seen all the stuff like you've seen it, you know, the long tube in your head and all that stuff, the long thing down your nose, whatever. And I've, you know, and then I've heard about the antibody test too, which is supposed to be a little bit easier. And I know there's supposed to be some new stuff coming too. So, so I just wanted to put that out there and just sort of follow up. We got a hand up. Hey, Vanita. It's unmuted there.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
So I took the test. Oh my God, that test is oh my God. I still feel the Q-tip in the back of my head.
Anita took it for all ADOS Bay Area.
I took that test. Oh my God. And never in my life have I experienced like any, like it's past discomfort. I mean, it's no words for it. Like, but here's the thing that I heard. I have a friend that works for unemployment. She works for the state. So they have built in some fine writing under if you want to file, say, workers' comp because you get it. But there's no way to tell if you get it from work. So one thing that the test does do is it gives you a baseline. So now that I've taken it, I know that I don't have it, right? So if I were to contract it now, I could almost pinpoint, you know, because I'm an essential worker. So that's one thing, you'll have that documentation, but I'm telling you, it's something that you have to, it's a mind thing, I don't even know. But yeah, so that's what's happening as far as filing for unemployment or workers' comp. So they're saying there's some strict guidelines on the essential workers and how you contracted it, you know, and how you can prove that. So I think one of the things that taking the test does is it clears you, you know, that further down the road in case you do contract it, then you'll have an idea of, you know, where you contracted it or how, or you'll be able to pinpoint it if you need to file for workers' comp.
I have a question. Does that do you have to sign anything that like says that you have to agree to contact tracing?
So the way that I did it like last month. So what happened was when I contacted my doctor, because I was having all these other high risk, right? And I was all weirded out. And my son kept saying, "No, Mom, don't take it." But so what happened was my doctor, whenever I work for the county, so whenever I go on to, we have something called My CC Link, which is my medical records, and go in there and speak to my doctor. So when I put COVID-19 in the subject line, it was routed to this COVID center out of Richmond, California. Now I live in Antioch. So what happened was I had a triage nurse call me on the phone, and then, you know, they go over, okay, what are your symptoms? And then they set it up for me to just go in and do the drive-through. So that was about a month ago. Now I understand that all essential workers, hang on, it's about to get loud. Hold on one second.
No worries.
So now I understand that all essential workers are able to take it without going through that process by just calling a phone number.
Right on. All right, so it doesn't sound like there was any anything you had to sign in terms of contact tracing.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about, there might be privacy related concerns. If we start amplifying testing, we might want to do a little bit of research.
So it depends on what, like LA County is literally you put your name, you can put your race. I think I put my age and my address so that they can make sure I was in LA County. And then there was no waiver that was signed. Now every company, there are different companies that are doing the testing. Different companies have a contract, and so that's your personal property. They cannot take that from you unless you give authority to it, authority to them to take that information and put that data in. Anonymously, the data is probably being put in anonymously, like without your name and any other identifiers, if that makes sense, because that's how the graph is created.
HIPAA, but I'm just wondering if this, they're talking about this contact tracing thing that they're going to start ramping up with, and maybe we might want to kind of be conscious of the fact that they might try to slip that in there, where if you take the test, you're also agreeing that, they'll look up whoever you might have been in contact with if you test positive.
So the contact tracing is for people who have been in contact with people who you tested positive with the virus, and they have to find the other people to tell them that you're positive, because they need to see it, tell them to quarantine themselves. That's what the contact tracing is for.
No, I know what it is.
Understand.
At the same time, they could, being in the tech space, I know how they can be slick too. You don't know you're positive until you take the test. So a great point to get a person to say, in some fine print of a document that you have to sign, like when you go to the doctor's office and you're about to take you through a procedure, sometimes you have to just initial a couple of forms. Those things might say that if you test positive, if this test ends up being positive, you are consenting for us to conduct a contact trace on your whereabouts. You see what I'm saying?
No, so they can you have to volunteer that information.
Okay.
Like where you've gone, because it's not like anybody's putting a tracker on you.
Right.
But I think for the protection of other people, they want to know, and it's not like you're gonna, if you don't volunteer it, but they want to be able to contact the other people because they're putting other people at risk by being out. And so it's more of a containment issue. And so it's not about you giving them information that will expose you, because there was a lady in Michigan, a hairdresser, who came in contact with I don't know how many people. They didn't reveal who she was. They have to do it for containment, because if they don't do that, if you test positive, you're around people, then it's a chance that the thing is just going to keep spreading. So I don't think that anybody, the issue here is no one person's right is greater than the community's. So your personal right is not greater than the community's. If you test positive and you come into contact with other people, they have to notify those other people, and they might not use your name, but say you came across someone. This happened to my sister at work. There was an employee who tested positive for COVID. They are required by law to let the other people know, but they don't say who the person is. They just say we are required by law to let you know that you have come in contact with someone, or you may have come in contact with someone. And that is to let these people know. Now you have to quarantine yourself so that you don't infect somebody else.
Yeah, I think we want to take a close look at any, and I think both your points are well taken here. We want to, and I think the main point is that we want to make sure that we're taking a look at what the law says, what our people's rights are, and if we need to work to strengthen those rights or protections, right? Then we can do that. But definitely want to get our eyes on it. I did want to move the conversation forward. I think this has been a great talk on the testing and on the health side. We will come back to this for sure.
But Chris, I'm sorry, you might want to on one of the calls, maybe just have because I saw this in another local group I'm in, that's mostly African Americans. There has been concern that people, amongst people that, about executive orders and really understanding, how they work, how the laws are applicable, especially during times of pandemics or national emergencies. And so you might want to, one day have that discussion so people are not, their understanding of where the laws are coming from and how they apply.
And then lastly, Chris, if I may, this is Vanita.
Yes,
One
yes.
thing that they did require after I took the test, they required me to quarantine, I think it was like 5 days until I got the results. They required that self-quarantine, and then I think, California may be different, but in my case, it was negative. So after I took the test and I got the results, they cleared me. But had I been positive, I think it's just like she said, they will contact, for example, my job and say someone tested positive and, blah, 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 and this is what we're doing. But yeah, I was required to quarantine until I got the results.
Thank you for that. That's helpful. It's helpful for folks to know what the process is like, especially as we're out here advocating for the health of ADOS in California. Thank you for everyone who shared, everyone who's taking the test, everyone who is about to take the test, was thinking about taking the test.
I just have one more question
Yeah,
about
sure.
the test, because, considering taking the test. For both of the ladies that took it, Sharice and Vanita, I believe, are you planning on taking the antibodies test as well? So my understanding is you took the test just to see if you were positive or negative for COVID, but what about an antibodies test?
Vanita, I don't know about you.
That, not if it's like that test. I'd rather have to go through childbirth and take that damn test. I'm not even playing.
Or I also assume that since you both tested negative, then you can safely assume that you just have never been in contact with it.
No, I know that I was I was in a room, it was 1,000 people in the room, but I know I was in the same room of 1,000 people with someone who tested positive. Okay. And you never know who people are asymptomatic, and so you never know who you may come in contact with. But had I known that the information I sent out yesterday was an antibody test, I would have definitely gone, because I want to know if I've ever had it. But I think it also tells you, if you're immune or whatever. So I do want that information for future knowledge. And then, like I said, it's just a prick on the finger. It's a blood test. So if that is available again, I will get it, because I'm not getting a vaccine.
Got it. We're gonna have this conversation about vaccines too. Yes, that's coming too.
Yeah, you kick that off. We're gonna be here a while.
Yeah, let's leave that alone for now, because that's that's gonna be something. And we're gonna have our work cut out for us with the vaccine talk. Thank you for that. Really, really good discussion, actually. And I think really insightful, and to hear from people who are actually like doing it and living it and taking tests and thinking about taking tests. I think we're all, as a whole community, trying to figure this out right now. And, so thank you. And it's really good to hear from people who are actually like going through it and experiencing. I also want to give a shout out to the folks in the chat. We see all the comments in the chat. Appreciate everybody's comments. I want to welcome in Friday as well too. Welcome, fam. Appreciate you. So you check in. Thank you for that. I do want to step forward. This was, part of our, normally we would open the calls with the health briefing, even though we started with some other stuff today, just to give folks an overview of where we are in terms of a state, sort of a state of the state, health, COVID briefing. Moving forward,